Hi everyone, this is Dragon GGY. It's been pretty hard to keep up with the schedule, but here is the 12th episode of Module Reveal Update, featuring modules from October to November. As always, you can catch timely updates, well, as much as I can, with the online Google Sheet, and you can join my Discord server for more discussions. Still don't have time for the specialized module yet. Gotta find another way to present them to you, so let's stick with the basic ones first. First up, we have Skadi Alter X. If you don't get the description, the attack plus 8% effect in module base is not affected by quote-unquote trait effect increase to something something in skills. The module increases the attack inspiration and passive HP recovery from trait both by 15.78%. The passive HPS from skill 2 is now 112. Seaborn duration and cooldown changes from 25 and 30 to 30 and 25. A bit of a QOL, and it now fully covers the duration of skill 1. And with that considered, the healing done in a single Seaborn deployment is increased by 38.9%. But at the end of the day, skill 1 is the least used skill for her, and we don't really use Seaborn mainly for healing distant teammates. So, if you are just mainly using her skill 2 for AFK where you are likely to not use the Seaborn at all, then the upgrades aren't that significant, and most of the improvements are in level 1. Next, we have Civilight Eterna X. For detailed breakdown, go check out my operator hindsight on her. Basically, it's a good upgrade to her passive healing. Improvement is shown here in the text. The main selling point for this mod is being able to redistribute the healing for allies around her, which is significantly higher than for those further away, to everyone in the range, and is quite noticeable when you have multiple units in range. For damage, which is just a very small part to her, it's a 15% improvement. For cons, the active healing from upgrades are not effective on entities, which honestly isn't a big deal. The problem, again, is that the healing aspect from Civilight Eterna is just not finding a context currently in the game. Too many competitors in the same race. Overall, very optional, but worth the level 3 if you use her. Next, we have Hon Y. The design principle for this module is DPS increase via attack speed, which means no significant DPH increase. It balances the strength of Bloodbath by sharing part of the bonus to her normal state as well. It brings an improvement of 24.8% normal and 19.3% Bloodbath to skill 3 DPS. The module gives a higher attack attribute than Module X at level 1, rather cost effective. But again, the module failed to bring major improvement to her DPH, which has long been her problem. What's worse is that when using skill 1 and skill 2, the attack speed increase is just borderline irrelevant. When both at level 3, the DPH from Module X is slightly higher because of the defender attack talent buff, and it becomes more significant when enemies are blocked. So that gives a pretty clear conclusion to our comparison here. If you mainly use skill 1 and skill 2, then Module X is the better choice, but it does require at least level 2 to be superior in damage. Module Y, the newer one, is more for skill 3, but its level 1 is rather cost effective. Based on Horn's performance nowadays, I believe most players mainly use her skill 1 for AFK now, so I'm gonna give a 60 to 40 for X and Y. Module X level 3 or Module Y level 1+. For the last one in this batch, we have Stainless Y. This module does increase his ability to buff teammates by giving them up to 12 attack speed on top of what the skill offers, so that naturally works better on skill 1 and skill 2. The problem with the module is that the shorter deployment cooldown in base effect isn't really that crucial for Stainless. The original time is quite acceptable, and for skill 3 users, it's also less impactful because whoever hitting the target is not always right behind it, and it's even less common to have both turrets back facing the same operator, making the full bonus even harder to achieve. The module also gives him 0 attack attribute, which is tied to the damage of skill 3, so that's another reason to not use it with skill 3. So overall, it's also pretty clear as to how to pick his modules. For skill 3 users, I recommend the former one. It has better damage capability and makes his turret cost less to make the setup easier. Module Y is to be used with skill 1 and skill 2, and is overall more effective when buffing others. Overall, I say 40 to 60 for them. Module Y is just more applicable, but unfortunately both of them doesn't make him significantly easier to use. Module X level 1+, or Module Y level 3 for him. Next, we have the ones for November, starting off with Virtuosa X. First of all, I have a whole video dedicated to this module, so for details you can check it out, link on screen right now. Her level, her potential, and module level are all factors that can influence the breakpoint of her skills towards different enemies, and here are just some notable ones provided by this module. For detailed and customized calculations, I have made this breakpoint calculator that you can find in the description so that you can find out what your Virtuosa needs. Overall, this module makes her skill 1 more reliable, that's for AFK, and for skill 3, she can now trigger burst on elites with skill 3 in just 3 seconds, so you can calculate a full skill 3 cycle, that's 3 plus 15 seconds for build up and a burst, another 3 plus 15 for a second cycle, and 3 more seconds for the third burst, totaling up to 39 seconds, less than the 40 seconds duration. The Elemental Fragile also gets amplified by skill 3 to 12.5%. Not only does it increase her damage while Necrosis burst, it also amplifies damage from her dedicated partner, Nymph skill 3. Combined with the faster time to trigger burst, it brings the potential of this combo up a whole level. There is a minor problem, being that sometimes Virtuosa will waste a stack of skill 1 on an enemy when the burst is just about to happen. More details in the video, but honestly, it isn't that bad, it's still an improvement. This module is definitely a very worthy upgrade to Virtuosa. Next, we have Lappland Alter X. Base effect, like what Golden Glow currently has, is for reducing the loss of damage when used against hordes or when switching targets frequently. And that for Lappland is more applicable to her skill 1. The upgrades give her some attack speed, which is crucial for Megacore casters to help them stack up faster. Overall, it's a damage improvement of about 22.3% to her skill 3, but in reality that's gonna be slightly less than that due to the mechanic of her VOL chasing down enemies. Also, the Shilakuza faction is just not doing too hot right now. We have Angelina, Suzerain and her mommy, Vigil, Penance as 6 stars in this faction. Can't say they really need the attack speed bad, nor are they super viable right now. So at the end of the day, it's more for Lappland herself. Level 1 recommended, and you know the thing with Megacore casters, base attack attribute is very important for them. Next, we have Vulpisfoglia X. It's a relatively simple module, damage oriented, and it translates to 19.6% more damage to her skill 3. But the key problem to this module is that she just doesn't work with the base effect very well. Her main skill, skill 3, has a range extension and a consistent stun that actually prevents enemy from walking up to her, so it's not common for her to block an enemy for long. So the improvements from it should be less than on paper numbers most of the time. And as a pioneer, the significance of DP-4 from Module Y is just too good to pass. You can say that it's crucial for their relevance. Considering that her DP regen increase, which is in the other talent, will potentially be upgraded alongside that base effect, I think it's very reasonable to save for that one instead. Unfortunately, most of the damage improvements are in the upgrades for this module, so it's either level 3 or not at all. Next, we have a Crownslayer X. As always, the base effect of Executor X module is very QOL, and that's even more true on her because she costs 1 DP more than others being a welfare operator. Other than that, I respect the buff to her support function, but the actual number, the ease of use, and effectiveness from her overall kit design is just awful. It's just not worth it beyond level 1. And finally, we have Lesson of Y. This module is obviously best paired with skill 2, where it gets multipliers for this talent. He now reduces external damage by 88%, which is significant, and ignores 26.4% of enemies' defense. The revival gives him more time to put in more damage, making up for the lack of survival against the enemy blocked by him. And his damage will surpass Module X against enemies with more than 1200 defense in skill 2. That said, even though we joked about the miserable attack attribute from Module X, its base effect is still huge for improving his DPH. So in a team environment, his previous module still has the damage edge. Also, a reoccurring theme with Dreadnought Y is that it becomes less impactful when Lessing doesn't die at all, or when he just quickly dies again. So if we put X and Y side by side, Module X is good with skill 3 and deals considerable damage when receiving buffs. Module Y is specialized for using skill 2 to do the typical Hella drop and dueling. Personally, I don't think the cycle of skill 3 is good, despite being an interesting skill, and buffing him for damage is not the most intuitive thing to do. So I'm gonna give the playstyle with skill 2 a higher recommendation, although I think we've had a fair share of Hella droppers. 40 and 60 for X and Y, Module X level 1 or Module Y level 3 is recommended. That's it for this episode. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.